with a dream, a cardigan. Welcome to the land of fame XX. Am I gonna fit in? Jumped in the cab, here I am for the first time. Look to my right and I see the Hollywood sign. This is all so crazy. Everybody seems so famous. My tummy's turning and I'm feeling kinda homesick. Too much pressure and I'm nervous. It's when the taxi man turned on the radio and the Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. So I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. Nodding my head like yeah. Moving my hips like I got my hands up to play my song. I know I'm gonna be okay. Yeah. It's a party in the USA. Get to the club in my taxi cab. Everybody's looking at me now.
Today I'm going to be sharing with you what's working right now in 2024 for SEO blogging and for affiliate marketing. And I'm going to share how much my small blog actually earned in August 2024, including all of the data, the visits, the sales, and the commissions. So let's jump in. So over the past few months, I've been documenting this small blogging case study that I started here in mid-February. You can see we were at just over 100 organic traffic per month. And now in mid-September, we are just over 27,000 organic traffic. And we have 60 pages, which is not a big site at all. So I've been talking about this case study that I've primarily just been doing for SEO to test the latest SEO strategies of what's working in 2024. There's so many people who are talking about Google SEO doesn't work anymore. They're losing all their rankings. Their sites are getting penalized, de-indexed, etc. But in my case, I've been talking about how we've actually been seeing amazing growth despite these algorithm updates. So you can actually see here that the August 2024 core update, which happened here in mid-August, you can actually see we got quite a huge boost thanks to these algorithm updates, and it keeps on going up and to the right. So if you were to just look at this graph right here, you know, honestly, I knew this site would grow. I just didn't expect it to grow at this rate, especially considering we've barely touched the site in August. And I can actually tell you that we didn't do any work on this site in August. And by we, I mean me, because I've only been working on this part-time. So it says here that the organic pages went from 57 to now 60 in mid-September. But to be honest, we just didn't even touch this site. Maybe these are pages that weren't indexed, that just got indexed. But we have barely touched this, so I'm excited to talk about the earnings. But before we jump into that, we have to talk about this SEO growth, because everyone who's trying to run a website or trying to do blogging or SEO, you have to listen to people who can actually have the proof to back it up that it's working with sites that have single-digit domain rating. You know, people talk about backlinks, but this is a site that has a single-digit domain rating with virtually no authority at all. And we are crushing it with 226 keywords in positions 1, 2, or 3. We're not talking about page 1, we're talking about positions 1, 2, or 3 on page 1. So these results are mind-blowing to me. And just to go over it one more time, in the Google Search Console, in addition to this, which we're looking at in Ahrefs, we can actually see here the growth on Google Search Console is just reflecting what we're seeing inside of the Ahrefs. And you can see that we had this spike here in Prime Day, which was July 16th, July 17th. Honestly, when this spike happened, I knew it was going to be seasonal. I knew that we weren't going to sustain this kind of traffic. And you can actually see here that our average position for those days, actually we jumped up quite high, close to page 1, but it was really the click-through rate that really boosted those traffic numbers. You can see 3.3% on that day, but usually we're around a 1.5. After that, around a 1.8. But today we're sitting at almost 2% on these days. And what's more exciting is, you know, this Prime Day spike, I knew that it was just seasonal, but we've actually surpassed what we had on Prime Day. You can see we have over 58,000 daily impressions in September 9th. And we got over 1,200 daily clicks, and this is not including the discover traffic, but just the search results traffic, and that's actually more than we got on that Prime Day. So what I'm really excited for is we have Black Friday coming up in Q4. We have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas. So Q4 is always going to be the biggest spike of the year, and we are primed in a position to take advantage of that. But it's all about preparation. You know, if we didn't do this work beforehand, we would not get this blessing on Prime Day, where, you know, Google decided to bless our site on Prime Day, but they decided to bless our site again here as of late in September. So let's go back here. But real quick, I just want to give a shout out to one of my one-on-one mentorship students, Peggy, who just shared here that she joined in mid-February 2024 of this year, and she earned just shy of $1,300 in a single month, in about a 7th-month span of starting to work with me. And basically, you know, shout out to Peggy. This was really awesome to hear from her. She shared this also in our Discord community. And if you are in my one-on-one mentorship, I do want to share that I just uploaded this updated product review template for 2024. This is a Google Doc that you could literally just copy and paste and see the template that I'm rolling out through all of my sites for individual product reviews. And that template is what is leading to these results right here. I've refined this template so many times. We're on like version 4.0, 5.0, and this is basically what I like to do is if something's working and it's showing us results, I double down and I apply that to all of my content throughout all of my sites. Obviously, depending on the niche, depending on the product, you might have to tinker around with the template a little bit, but to be honest, like this is what I'm running with in 2024 to get these results. So if you're in my one-on-one mentorship, you just have to go to curriculum and look for the product review template, and you will get access to just you know, visit the Google Doc where you can make a copy, you can copy and paste, you can just even just learn from it. So anyways, let's jump into the earnings. How much did this blog actually earn in August 2024 with working 0 hours on the website? So I actually pulled up the Amazon Associates right here. You can see this is August 2024. This is just last month. And you can see here that the earnings from the Amazon Associates alone was $332.39. Now, honestly, I am shocked that Amazon Associates is earning this much with barely touching it and not even really, you know, giving it a real effort. We've just been doing written blog content on the site. This site, you know, has about 60 pages right now, so it's not a big site by any means. But basically, this site earned $332. Now, we actually did also receive a bonus. So basically, for the months, the last 3 months, there's been this promotion of this bonus if you hit certain sales targets inside of Amazon Associates. And actually, if we look at this, we've hit the target every one of these months. So July, August, September, we hit the highest target. And basically, we earned an additional $160 each of these months. You can actually see here we hit it 3 times, so that's $480 extra that Amazon Associates is going to pay out to us. So we hit that 160. Now, if you were to add those together, the 160 plus the 332, we're at $492 for the month, just under $500. But just to go over these numbers real quick. So yeah, August, you know, usually summer, they have this summer slowdown. It's not going to be as high as Q4, as we mentioned, with the Black Friday, with Cyber Monday, with Christmas coming around the corner. But basically, like, these numbers are extremely strong for the summer. And you can see we have days where we sell $900 worth of product on a single day, over $1,200 worth of product on this day. But on average, it looks like we're averaging around $500, $400 per day that we're selling on Amazon. So I actually want to share with you this right here. This is actually the real data in a Google Sheet for this website. So I want to share with you all the conversion rate numbers. And this is data that people are not going to share with you, that is just real world data. I just showed you the earnings, and now I'm going to show you the visits and the conversion rates for everything, just so you can get a gauge of, it's really just a numbers game at the end of the day. So this site received 22,511 unique visits in August 2024. And then it received 1,626 clicks out of those 22,000 visits. That's a 7.2% visit to click percentage conversion rate. So basically, the click number I'm getting from the Amazon Associates, that's how many affiliate link clicks that we got here in August, 1,600, okay? And so basically, that means that out of all the people who visited the site, 7.2% actually clicked an affiliate link, okay? So these are good numbers to know for your site, because it gives you a sense where you can start to make projections of, okay, if we were able to go from 20,000 to 30,000, and let's say we maintain the 7.2% click rate, then we would get this amount of clicks, and then our conversion rate from clicks to sales was around 9.9%. So we had quite a high conversion rate. And again, I owe this to the product review template. You'll see here that I have very strong call to actions to purchase and to click those affiliate links. So, some of this is by design, like a 9.9% conversion rate is pretty high. And if we're to pull up here, you can actually see that the Amazon Associates says we have a 9.53% conversion rate from clicks to orders. And I'm actually doing shipped items because that's how you get paid on shipped items. So whether you choose shipped items or ordered items, there's only like a difference of like 6 items between these two. Doesn't really matter. But essentially, we're just under a 10% double-digit conversion rate, which is awesome. And honestly, I think that the reason why Amazon Associates is so great right now is because people are ordering online more than ever. And there's nothing we can do to stop this trend. Like, people are lazy. And I'm speaking to myself here. I'm, an avid Amazon user, and there's no end in sight in terms of people ordering stuff through Amazon online. I love shopping on Amazon, and there's no reason to stop in the near future. And they're only going to grow more popular, okay? There's only going to be more products, more sellers who are going to be selling via Amazon. Basically, if we look at the visit to the sale conversion rate, which is a little bit of a different metric that I don't think a lot of people use, but it's a 0.72%, and that's from like a unique visit to actually buying something, okay? But this seems to be in line. You could expect anywhere from a 0.5 to a 1% conversion rate from a visit to a sale. But I really think the click to the sale conversion rate is really, really healthy. I mean, just under 10%. Now, if we're looking at some of these other numbers here, which I just want to highlight just to give you perspective, okay? So we did not run any ads on the site, and we're not running any ads on the site currently. So the site is at around that 20,000, visits per month. And I just don't think that it's worth it for us to put ads like such as Google AdSense that's going to slow down our site. It could potentially hurt our rankings, and we continue to grow up and to the right. I don't want to do anything to mess with that right now, especially because we're getting pretty decent commissions just from Amazon Associates alone. So that's something that I think we should just continue working on, growing the site to a level of, let's say, 50 to 100,000 visits per month. That's when I would introduce ad revenue, because our ad revenue potential just from Google AdSense with a conservative $7 per thousand unique visits is $157. So like this projection, we could have just added this to our site in August if we had ran AdSense, which is one of the lower revenue per mil ad networks, and we would have earned a total of $650 from adding the ad revenue in addition to our affiliate commissions from Amazon Associates, and that is nothing to scoff at. $650, and if we were to annualize that, that's just under $8,000 per year. But if we just look at our pure commissions and our earnings that we earned in August, annualized, that's just under $6,000 per year, and that's just under 10% of the average salary in the US, which is $60,000 per year. And again, I mentioned this in one of my last videos, which is the average raise per year is around 3% per year. Okay, so we just added in just a few months a income stream that generated, if we annualize this, just under 10% of a raise per year if you're on $60,000 per year salary. Okay, and here's the thing that's more exciting. This is not our ceiling. Like, we're not done. We're nowhere close to done if you look at our growth right here. And now I'm going to share with you the playbook for how can we multiply these earnings, because honestly, what gets me excited about this is that I started this case study really just as an SEO experiment, just to grow the traffic. And we've done that. Obviously looking at the growth, like, it's been very consistent, and we're at 60 pages. So now I'm going to share with you what are the levers that we can pull in this funnel right here, because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, and it's all just a funnel. So basically, I'm going to unlock this right here, and we're going to talk about how do we increase these visits, the clicks, and the sales with these growth levers. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one, which is the average lifetime value. So I'm going to take this out right here. Okay, average lifetime value, it starts with your niche and the customer. are you selling to a customer who's buying expensive things and who's going to spend a lot of money, basically? Now, this is obviously something that you probably want to figure out before you go out and create your website and launch your brand and start creating content. Like, you want to have a niche that is going to be friendly to, let's say, selling these products where people are spending hundreds of dollars. Okay. Now, these are not just like, you can see here, like, these are not just from one individual product. Like, we're selling, $400, $500 per day, but it's because of 11 different products. So maybe $100 each or something like that. Okay. So basically, you can start with the niche, and some niches, they just have customers who are willing to spend more money than others. Okay. If you're in a niche where all the products are like $5 and they don't even need to do research, just think about that. Like, they don't even need to look for your blog to make that purchase. But if they're making a purchase that, let's say, is $200, they might have to do a little bit more research there, right? So you start there, bundling related products, upsells and downsells. So increasing the average lifetime value of your customers is going to come from, honestly, like, how much are they spending? How much is each customer who's buying something from your site spending? Okay. Now, let's go into the visits and the conversion rate, because this is actually what I'm more interested in doing. So the first thing is YouTube. Okay. So everything you see here, what gets me super excited is we earned this just from a pure blog with written content with 60 pages. In my experience, going to YouTube, expanding to YouTube and doing videos and just doubling up on what's already working, depending on your niche, YouTube can earn 3 to 5 times as much as a pure written blog. Okay, let me repeat that. YouTube versus the blog, in my experience, in the niches which I've done, and obviously some niches lend themselves better to YouTube than others. Some people do prefer to read written content depending on the niche and the product and just the type of person. Some people like to shop via Google in terms of research. Some people like to use YouTube. Younger people probably tend towards YouTube, and then older folks probably towards Google, right? So for me, I love YouTube, and I know for a fact that in this niche, YouTube crushes. YouTube would generally make up 80% of the sales if you had both a YouTube channel and a website. We haven't done the YouTube for this yet. If we were to expand to YouTube, this can probably go from, $300, $500 per month to $1,000, $2,000, maybe even $3,000 per month. And honestly, depending how quickly things can come together, this could actually happen by the end of the year. So it's September now. So in 3 months, with a good strategy, we could scale this from just under $500 per month to over $1,000 per month, maybe even a chance at over $2,000 per month. Okay, that's the power of YouTube. So there's YouTube, there's just doing more of more. So if we go back to the Ahrefs here, we're at 60 organic pages. If you were to just double this number or even get it from 60 to 100, okay, conservatively, we would double our traffic, if not more. And to be honest with you, when it comes to a strategy like this, where we're getting such great efficiency, we only have 60 pages with this amazing growth and this 27,000 organic traffic. If we were to realistically add 40 or 60 pages, it's not just going to double this traffic number. I guarantee you that. It's probably going to triple to quadruple or more. So you're already looking at 75 to 100,000 organics per month if we were to raise this number. Because with our strategy, and if you saw my video about the SEO structure, this web that we do with our site and our internal linking, the reason why we're getting this growth is because everything's interconnected. So if one of our new blog posts were able to actually rank and start doing well, it's going to lift 3 or 4 other blog posts that are surrounding it, that it's related to, that's linking to. And that's how you're able to see everything just rise together. Okay. So, I mean, you just do more of more. So if what's working right now, we have 60 organic pages that are crushing, just add 60 more. Okay. That's definitely one. And then another lever, and this is something I did an interview in my last video with Kathleen Coble about Amazon's influencer program. So if you don't know about Amazon Influencer, basically it's this program where you can upload videos directly to Amazon and you can review products and you can earn commission that way. Instead of doing it on your own site, like I'm doing right here, where I have these affiliate links on my own site, I'm getting my own traffic that's from Google search, SEO, wherever, and people are clicking those links and buying it. You can actually upload videos directly to Amazon, and if they watch a certain percentage of that video, you get commission as well. And if you've seen these videos on certain product listing pages on Amazon, you know, you've probably seen them before. And if you haven't seen them, just go on any product on Amazon. You'll see some videos that say earns commission, and those are Amazon Influencer Program. I actually just signed up last month. I made a few videos, but I'm still tinkering around with it. But that's something I'd probably invest some of my time into if I wanted to grow these affiliate sales and I wanted to potentially double my affiliate commissions per month. And we're already using Amazon Associates right now. So Amazon Influencer is, you know, it's really just double dipping. Okay. And honestly, like the last thing, so there's a couple other things here we can do for the raising the conversion rate. So actually, let me remove this. And so the first thing that I want to say is, in addition to doing the website and YouTube, those are the first two big things I would do, because, you know, the first thing, which is just doing more of the website, as I showed you with, you know, inside of Ahrefs, like if we just went from 60 pages to 120, we'd probably double our results on the low end. Like that's a very conservative estimate right there. Okay. Now, aside from doing YouTube, which I just explained to you, in some niches can generate 80% of the sales versus a website, if you were to look at both of them side by side. So in my experience, in my niches that I do, it tends to make up anywhere from 60 to 80% of the sales versus the website. So I would go into YouTube if I was trying to make this really a full-time income and multiply this. Now, the other thing you can do is a lead magnet. Okay, this might be a free course. This might be a resource of some sort. And a lead magnet's going to raise your conversion rate. Okay, so if we're looking at this visit to sale conversion rate of 0.72%, you know, I look at that and it's nothing that I look at and say, you know, we can't improve that. Because if you were to take this from 0.72 to 1%, which is very, like, that's a feasible number, then we might raise our commissions and our earnings 50%. Okay. And how do you do that? Sometimes it's by having a stronger lead magnet or a free course, or by having some kind of resource where people are going to be more inclined to buy something because you're providing more value than just a purely written blog. Like at the end of the day, a blog is great, especially if it's high quality content, but it's not the highest converting mechanism for getting an affiliate sale. The highest converting mechanisms are usually something that requires a little more investment from the visitor of the site, maybe putting in their email, and then a little more investment on your side of providing more value. Maybe it's a tutorial, maybe it's like, you know, how to use this software, etc. Okay, so by doing more, you get more sales, you get more conversion rate and more trust from your visitors. Okay, I have your email marketing, which honestly we don't even need to touch right now. Like we can just keep doing more of more or expand to YouTube. Those are the biggest things I would do first. I wouldn't even touch email, especially for this niche. Some niches, you know, email just doesn't really matter at this stage, just not yet, until you're getting really, really big traffic and until you have a good lead magnet. People are not just going to sign up for some random newsletter these days. People hate spam, right? Again, Amazon Influencer, I've already mentioned that, but that's another way to just pad the amount of clicks, impressions, sales that we can get from the same products that maybe you're already reviewing on your YouTube, on your website. And yeah, so the last things I have here are pricing, discounts. So if you're able to get some kind of discount code with the affiliate program, it's going to raise your conversion rates. Sales and service, this is like actually hands-on one-to-one. Maybe you're actually like an agency and you're getting these affiliate sales because your clients need to use a product. So you have to, maybe you recommend them to use the product and they sign up and then you get referrals. I've seen that happen a lot, especially in services. You know, typically in services, you have a bunch of tools that your client needs to use that perhaps they can sign up and you get a referral. And service is just like, yeah, I mean, these are hand in hand basically. So that basically wraps it up. Now, what's exciting is this next phase. So I have a decision right here. Do I want to keep working on this case study and blow it up into a full-time income, which is very possible with those steps that I just mentioned? Or to be honest, I've been extremely busy in the past few months and I'm going to continue to be busy towards the end of this year. So I don't know if I really have the time to execute on the expansion plans, because at the end of the day, we have 60 high quality posts, but you know, to go from 60 to 100, it's going to take some time. But to be honest, everything we've earned up to this point has been part-time. I've just been doing this part-time. You can just see here, like we've barely added any pages this summer. So In July, we were at like 48. We're now at 60. That's 12 pages from July to September. And so we haven't really invested that much time into this. In August, we spent 0 hours on the site, and it still earned just under $500. Okay. So that's the power of creating this passive income stream, or having a side hustle, having something with upside. Because as I shared, the average salary in the US is $60,000 per year. So if you want to give yourself a 10% raise, where can you go do that? It's probably not going to be from your job, which is around 3% per year, according to Investopedia. And that's lucky. Like, if you can get that 3% raise per year and not get fired in this economy, at the end of the day, people are just grateful to even just have a job, period. So when you're asking for like a 3% raise, 10% raise, the only way to have it is with a side hustle that has upside with no limits. Because, right now, I'm really impressed with how much this site's actually earned. And I've just been working on it part-time passively, because the path to getting this from $500 a month to $1,000 a month and $2,000 a month, it's very, very clear. We have a lot of actions which we could do. And I just know that doing this playbook time and time again is going to multiply this income. So that's something that I might try doing if I have the extra time. But overall, if you enjoyed this, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, comment below, let me know what you think. And, how is your websites doing right now with SEO? What are you struggling with? Because, that's something I'd like to help people with. And if you are interested in something like my one-on-one mentorship, where you can actually get hands-on help and feedback on your site, what you're doing wrong, what you need to do to improve to get to that next stage, to get to that next level, then book a free 30-minute strategy call with me. Link in the description. Spots filling up fast. Hope you enjoyed this one. Subscribe for more content. See you in the next one.
We were talking about personal branding at the end of yesterday, and I have a studio of one right now, right? The vision is for it to be more, but I'm curious if I should be building my personal brand or the studio brand. Anyways, I'm just like, where should I be focusing to try to get some traction?
I'm still not sure if I fully am committed to this, what I'm about to say, but I'm not sure there's such a thing as a business brand. There's things that people refer to as a brand, as a business, but what they're referring to is the efforts of a collective team of marketers, writers, designers, creating an experience. It's a collective thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of these things. And I think a lot of us understand what brands do on a corporate level, which is to market to us. Their whole goal is to get us to do something. What I'm trying to do, and when people speak about personal branding, they use the same literal language for corporate branding and they bring it over to personal branding. They're designing whatever it is they're teaching you to go and help you sell more things. I don't know about you, but I'm just tired of people trying to sell me something. I'm just kind of like allergic to it now. And so when I try to teach people about personal branding, it's not so much I'm trying to sell you anything. It's mostly I want to know who the hell I'm supposed to be in this life, and I want to heal and to show up 100% as I am. And when I can do that, oddly enough, I seem to attract more people to me. If you've read Marty Neumeier's writings, especially in Brand Flip, he goes, we don't want to be sold things, but we love to buy. And as it evolves, he says, we don't want to buy, we join tribes, because we're looking for connection and meaning in our lives. I'd just like to go into the history of branding a little bit, and you'll start to understand like why we are where we are and how we may want to have a different dialogue about it. And I'm telling you right now, for every single person who's here who wants to develop their personal brand, and if you do it the way I hope you'll do it, you'll have a competitive advantage over everybody else who's doing it the wrong way. And I'll just be as polarizing as like there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Okay, just to make the argument. For most of our civilization, whether you believe in creation or evolution, we've been around for a long time. We've had to procure our own food source and make our own supplies. It's only in the last, let's say 100 years that we're going through this industrial revolution, industrial age, where specialization starts to happen. So we're no longer growing our own food. So what happens is as we get into specialized skills and industrial manufacturing, things like that, there's a disproportionate amount of options that are happening. Now we're living in small towns. There's a local grocer, there's one, a general goods store, and there's only one kind of flour. And as more people specialize, competition happens. Now they have to distinguish themselves from each other and they create identity. And it's just to distinguish it. So point of differentiation, right? It makes sense. And as the small town grows into a really big town, the grocer no longer knows you on a personal level, can't make recommendations anymore. And so now that job is now put on the companies. So the company is now standing there with their packaging, with their design, the materials and the colors and the messaging. And so now we have all these options, and one company is trying to prevent the other company from being a counterfeit version, therefore damaging their relationship with their customers, because they'll get upset and it's like, we didn't sell you that. This is the evolution of identity design, marketing, and then especially now in the 21st century, we don't have just one kind of flour or one kind of toothpaste. We have too many kinds of flour and toothpaste. And so the modern concept of branding, I think, is only like 30 years old or so. And it's been heightened by the internet and social media. Because now, instead of going somewhere and having limited choice, we have even unlimited choice. And so let's try to understand this then. Branding is preference. Branding is when I have an irrational emotional connection to a thing that I shouldn't have, but I do, because we're irrational, emotional people. We're creatures designed to really respond emotionally. So we kind of understand that, right? So everything that you need to understand about branding, I think I just told you in the story format. Differentiation and preference. And the way that I choose, because we are now wealthier than we've ever been individually. There's less disease. We're longer lived. We're healthier theoretically. So now we have more resources. We have more choice. And so instead of survival, we're looking for meaning. There's a quote from Anne Lappe, and she said that every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. When I buy Arrowhead versus Voss versus Fuji, I say I would like for those companies to thrive. I joke with my kids because my wife and I, we like this little Korean teriyaki chicken place called Teriyaki. They hate it. My wife and I, we love it. It's tasty, it's fresh, it's clean eating. And my older son's like, Dad, oh no. It's like, only you want to eat there. They're gonna go out of business. Like, boy, they've been around in business longer than you've been alive. And I say, if they're gonna go out of business, I'm gonna go over there and buy 1,000 chickens. And now he's like, Dad, why would you do that? Because I want to support them. Why do I care about them? I don't know. I can't even tell you why. I mean, maybe because when I was an Art Center student or working around here, it was an affordable meal and I have some weird connection to that. Every time I take a bite, maybe it transports me back 30 years. I'm reminded of like my starving self. I'm like, this was good. Still good today. So we have an emotional, irrational connection. Do you want people to have a preference for what you do? Probably. Then you have a brand. If not, you're a commodity. Now, here's what we know too. Every product has a story. Some stories are good. Some stories are not worth mentioning. What's the story of Arrowhead, everybody? God, I'm staring at this bottle. I'm almost certain Arrowhead is just filtered water. What's the story of Fiji? Does anybody know the story of Fiji? It feels exotic. Who said that?
Exotic.
Yeah, it feels exotic as like I'm on vacation. And then they introduced this language. What did they say, Drigo?
Artisanal.
It's artisanal water.
Wow.
Untouched by humans, filtered through lava rock of the Fijian Islands. And then you know what they do? If you look at the bottle, first of all, the bottle's different. Most bottles look like this. Their bottle's kind of square. And then on the back of the bottle, as you're looking through the water, you see a little bit of Fiji. You see what they're doing to you? As far as I know, this came from Colorado and came out of tap. But it's a good story. I don't know what this bottle of Arrowhead costs. I'm assuming not much. That's why we have it. It's like 35 cents. Bottle of Fiji is like $3. A bottle of Voss is like $5 because it has a different story. Why am I talking about all this stuff? What's your story? How manufactured is your story? What is the integrity and the authenticity of your voice? Is it there? I tell people I say dangerous things because I pretend like I know what I'm talking about. But as I look into this idea, there's Carl Jung and he talks about this, that there are two selves and it's regulated by our ego. Our ego manages who we're going to be in the world. There's the persona, which you're all very familiar with. It's who you pretend to be accepted in society. And all of us are in our persona. We are. It's undeniable. And then there's this other side where like, what are we managing then? On the other side of the persona is your shadow self. It's the ugly stuff. It's stuff that no one wants to talk about. It's the stuff that brings you shame and you feel like if you were to expose that, you'll be ostracized. And there's a good chance you might be. From childhood, maybe we're like 7 or 9 years old, you've gotten the persona put on you by your parents, most likely. You know, as a kid, you've said it yourself if you have children, and it's definitely been said to you, don't stare at that person. It's not nice. That's just you being you. Or I want to eat that. Or I want to go there. And I think that person's funny. Or I think they're cool. You just say whatever it is you want to say because the ego hasn't been taught how to regulate how you show up in public, right? And like if you eat your boogers when you're 3 years old, people are like, don't do that. People are getting freaked out. I'm like, but it's tasty. It's salty. Right? It's a good snack. It's all natural. It's non-GMO, right? And you're like, you can't do that. So we all stop eating our boogers. So what happens is When you show up and pretend to be somebody that you're not for long enough, you forget who the hell you are. And when we get into the personal branding stuff, all I'm trying to do is get people to remember. That's it. It's not invention, it's memory. My wife is really factored as your story. What is the integrity and the authenticity of your voice? Is it there? I tell people I say dangerous things because I pretend like I know what I'm talking about. But as I look into this idea, there's Carl Jung and he talks about this, that there are two selves and it's regulated by our ego. Our ego manages who we're going to be in the world. There's the persona, which you're all very familiar with. It's who you pretend to be accepted in society. And all of us are in our persona. We are. It's undeniable. And then there's this other side where like, what are we managing then? On the other side of the persona is your shadow self. It's the ugly stuff. It's stuff that no one wants to talk about. It's the stuff that brings you shame, and you feel like if you were to expose that, you'll be ostracized, and there's a good chance you might be. From childhood, maybe we're like 7 or 9 years old, you've gotten the persona put on you by your parents, most likely. You know, as a kid, you've said it yourself if you have children, and it's definitely been said to you, don't stare at that person. It's not nice. That's just you being you. Or I want to eat that. Or I want to go there. And I think that person's funny. Or I think they're cool. You just say whatever it is you want to say because the ego hasn't been taught how to regulate how you show up in public, right? And like if you eat your boogers when you're 3 years old, people are like, don't do that. People get freaked out. I'm like, but it's tasty. It's salty. Right? It's a good snack. It's all natural. It's non-GMO, right? And you're like, you can't do that. So we all stop eating our boogers. So what happens is, when you show up and pretend to be somebody that you're not for long enough, you forget who the hell you are. And when we get into the personal branding stuff, all I'm trying to do is get people to remember. That's it. It's not invention, it's memory. My wife is really into like everything related to like quantum physics, quantum particle, quantum entanglement. So she's into this whole quantum thing, and she's deep into like conspiracy theories and like weird pyramid and Illuminati and Freemasons Guild. I'm like, babe, just don't give anybody our money, okay? Explore as much of that as possible. Just don't fall into the cult hole. Please. But she shows me these videos, and they're fascinating for me to watch because she introduces me to concepts I'm uncomfortable with. And that's a really cool part of my relationship with my wife. She goes, look at this guy. Like he's from Argentina or something. He has a heavy accent. And he calls himself a rememberer. Do you guys know about this? It's a fascinating concept, okay? So, you know, there's a lot of strange things that are happening. So if you indulge me, I'm going to take you down a weird conspiracy theory hole, okay? Can we go? I'm going to go. None of it which I believe, but this is the story I'm learning, okay? There's a couple of complex concepts, and I think Chris Nolan has been exploring these concepts. That the idea that there are multiverses. Do you realize how many different things in fiction and media and cinema are talking about multiversal, like multidimensional things that are happening, and time being like this fluid thing? And it's starting to get really complicated. So one of the theories is that the future version of ourselves, far into the future, are trying to communicate to the current version of ourselves. And the time thing is not even a real thing because the old version of ourselves are here too. It's all happening simultaneously. And there are these rememberers who have not forgotten a single thing that humanity has gone through. And they will tell you what ancient versions of us know. It's wild ass stuff. But I don't know if I believe it because they ask them questions and they go into these weird states, right? And they're like speaking and being channeled through because future and past versions were speaking to them. And so they have groups like this and people ask them questions about, so where are the aliens and what's happening? What are they? And then they give these strange answers. I say strange because they're horribly vague and non-specific. I want dates, I want facts, I want figures, and they just give strange answers. And everybody's like, oh, I'm like, no. I want more specifics. But the idea of a rememberer is like pretty cool. Someone who's not forgotten like ancient wisdom throughout humanity, okay? I'll give you one more part and then I'll bring it back to personal branding. It's connected, I promise. The theme that I wanted to explore with you is, can you remember who you are? And if you can, are you then courageous enough to show that? And it's kind of an interesting thing. So let me share with you concept number one. True strength comes from weakness. It comes from vulnerability. And let's explore this concept, okay? If you were to think of some of the people you admire the most throughout history, the ones who stood for something, the ones who were captivating, who had ideas and were philosophers and could move whole groups of people with just their words, the ones who seemed super comfortable in their own skin, who weren't these charlatans trying to sell you something, there's probably a handful of people that you think of in your mind, right? And it's not typically like who's portrayed today. Today, if you ask some young people, who's this iconic person you're thinking about? They might say The Rock. He's popular, millions of followers. He's like some alpha dude, right? With muscles on top of muscles. And they're like, well, that's who I aspire to be. What names come to your mind when you think about, like, throughout history, who are some of these people that really stood for something? And you'll start to notice a pattern. Hopefully I can land the plane and just talk to you about that. Who do you think some of those people are? Just shout out a name. Gandhi. You say Gandhi? For sure, Gandhi. What's that? MLK. For sure. Anybody else?
Like Socrates, right?
Who?
Socrates.
Socrates. Yes. Of course. Mandela. I also think of somebody like the Dalai Lama. Are these physically strong people? I think of Mother Teresa. She's pretty frail. Gandhi's pretty skinny dude. You know, everybody's like not physically imposing. But you know, you look at them, you just see strength, courage, and conviction. And that's why I say true strength comes from weakness. And so when you look at the models on social media, all we have are images of strength. So I know something in marketing, just one simple concept, and it seems to be true every single time, which is when everybody's doing this, don't do that, just do this other thing. When everyone zigs, you zag, and everyone zags, you zug, right? If everyone is doing a linear thing, do a curvilinear thing. All you need to do is go in the opposite direction of everybody and you will stand out. So if you want to be able to stand out, and we see that always see our images of perfection, of strength, of glamour, of success, you just got to do the opposite. And they're like, that's refreshing. I don't know if the Dalai Lama is wealthy. I can't tell because all he does is wears roped. He has nothing. But yet I think he lives richly. And the people who have been able to meet him, they'll say similar things like there's an aura and energy. And I think it's like, why are people drawn to that? So there's something about this, right? And so it's a struggle for all of us to be able to say like, well, how much of myself do I want to show? And how much of this is just me trauma dumping? And what is the intentionality behind this? When you see people do that, because people do that, you kind of get grossed out by it too. So there's something weird here. I think it has a lot to do with your intention. We can smell intention from a mile away, right? When you tell a story that seems to be vulnerable and all it is you're just seeking attention and that's your intention, we can see it. Oh, I'm tired of you crying about XYZ all the time. You have to kind of work at this and be guided through this process. Now, some of you have gone through the program and the back calls where I started to explore personal branding through the lens of pop culture. It's evolved quite a bit. I'm not saying it's radically different, but I've refined it. There's like an evolution of the exercise and getting people to think about this. So here's one thing. If y'all want to work on your two-word branding, I've been trying to figure out how to make it easier for you to figure this out. Number one is rather than come up with words that you love about yourself, let's just start with words that you're like, ooh, those are my shadow words. Because let's start from a place of vulnerability and truth. And so what I do is now I instruct people to write as many words as they can from the lens of you not liking yourself. And just write all those words down. And then we can write words that people who don't like us would say about us. And then we say, what about the trolls? What about a critical parent? And you just write down as many words as possible. And then we start to separate the words that have no emotional triggering effect with us. And we really look at the ones that have a triggering effect. In order for you to show courage, it has to be uncomfortable for you to reveal it. Typically, when I instruct people to do the two-word brand, you know what they say? It's like, I'm charmingly handsome. They don't literally write that, but it sounds like that to me. I'm a creative genius, a genius designer. I'm like, what are you doing here? What are you doing? Because you know why? They're just thinking about marketing and sales. Marketing and sales. They go right back to corporate branding. It's like, I'm just tired of that. So now what I instruct people to do is I just say, go with all your dark, horrific shadow words and sit in that kind of discomfort for some time. And then what we do is we take your shadow word, usually 1 or 2 words. That's it. You're only allowed to use 1 or 2 words for a shadow word. So if you can't describe it in 1 or 2 words, use ChatGPT and ask it for 1 or 2 words to describe some complex thing, right? It'll figure it out for you. It's good at that kind of stuff. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to add a transformer word. This is where the magic happens, where you make a negative a positive. And there's something very therapeutic about this. So when you can reveal to the world, I don't like this about myself, but you add the transformer word, but I've learned to accept it. I've learned to embrace this thing that I've hid from everybody for a really long time. Tom Ross. You guys know who Tom Ross is? He's the founder of Design Cuts. He was in the London workshop, of course. He's like, Chris, I think I got my word. I'm like, what is it? I'm a people pleaser. I'm like, okay. Not exactly a good word. It's not like you walk around like, yo, I'm a people pleaser. It's not a good word. But he goes, is it wrong if I tell people I'm a people pleaser, Chris? I'm like, if that's your word, what are you going to do about it? Transform it, man. He goes, that's all I got. No, really add a transformer word. Why is being a people pleaser so important to you? He goes, man, because I run communities. If you run a community, it's good that you're tuned to what other people need. You see how he started to evolve his thinking around this, where it's a negative word. How did it help you? Why is this an advantage? And he found it. 10, 15 minutes later, he comes back. He's like, I got it. I'm like, what you got? I'm a proud people pleaser. I'm like, is there a shorter way to say that? He goes, I don't think so. Well, why don't you just sleep on it and see what else you come up with? So now he goes around telling people he's a proud people pleaser. The cool thing about it is when you land in your 2 or 3 word brand, what happens is it's not supposed to be the whole story. It's just a title to the movie. It's a title to the book. And it has to be intriguing enough that somebody's like, let me open to chapter 1. What does that mean, Tom? What is a proud people pleaser? And that's when he gets to tell the story about how he did X and now he's here and this is why this happens. And then it's summarized. So what happens is when you find your 2 or 3 word brand, it becomes a lens in which you can tell stories. Because remember, if you're a product without a story, you are definitely a product, then you're a commodity. So somebody out there, not for everybody, will be intrigued by this whole idea of a people pleaser. And they're going to want to get to know Tom. They might want to interview him. They might want to join his community, his tribe, because maybe that's what they're looking for. A place where they get to feel important, like they're a priority to someone in their life. So now that becomes an asset. He took a liability and turned it into an asset. So you all have infinite stories that can reinforce who you are in the world, that people then can say, I want to be part of that. I can choose anybody, but I choose you, or I choose you. You can't do it if you're not willing to show up and show yourself. Okay? Does that make sense? Somebody else that you can study, I guess it's just the London workshop here, is James Martin, made by James, MBJ. He does a lot of local work. James is kind of an adorable character. He's a bearded guy. He's like the British Aaron Draplin, but like hipper. Yeah. And James tells you stories about his troubles with sex, being sexually molested, dealing with drugs and alcohol. He talks about it all the time. And so he goes, Chris, what do I do with this? And this is like, there's a lot here to unpack, right? And he started to come up with like different words and combinations. Like he's got a lot of stuff to work with. I won't tell you how he landed it, but he did land the plane. And I brought him up because a woman came over to me and she goes, Chris, I had a relatively normal childhood. I don't have any trauma. You know, no one abused me. I wasn't like assaulted. Do I manufacture something? I'm like, no, please don't do that. Don't create false trauma. You don't have to have trauma. Like being a people pleaser is not traumatic. So we automatically, see how our brains are wired? As soon as somebody does that must be normal. I'm going to go do that. Like if we had a room here and you guys started pouring out, just talking about all the abuse and neglect that you've had in your life, the one person's like, no, I had it pretty good. They'll like manufacture something just so they can fit in. It's all about fitting in. And if you want to stand out, how can you fit in? And that's the name of the game here when you're building a personal brand. You have to give someone a story that they can understand and relate to. And it's in the imperfections, it's in the flaws that we relate to you. Pixar's like 22 rules of writing story is that we admire people or characters more for their struggles than for their success. So the proud people pleaser now has a filter and a lens. He can tell infinite stories. He can search through the memory banks of his life and just pull out the moments that seem to connect to this theme. And what happens is it becomes a lens that crystallizes all your stories. If I tell you, say, we're going to have each one of you grab the mic and tell a story, you're going to flounder. Many of you will ramble on. Most of you have no point. It'll be totally incoherent and uninteresting to most of us. But all of a sudden I say, tell a story that sets the origin of why you're a people pleaser much easier. Tell us a story when being a people pleaser was an advantage, when it's been a disadvantage. And so now you know how to search for the story. So your life is kind of like the internet. It's vast. It could be infinite. And when you understand your 2-word or 3-word brand, it's like now you have Google. And it can serve up the results. And you just go through the top 25 stories. And you can quite literally turn that into talks. You can use that to write a book. You can do some pretty powerful stuff. But you need to give people something to bite down on, right? My example is, and it's not a great one, because you're like, this is where you don't want to do what I've done. You want to do what I'm telling you to do. Do as I say, not as I've done. Yeah? Because Mo's like, but Chris, Mo, what would you say then? What's the line?
I already got a question, but it's not about this. No, it's not about what you're about to say. Oh, what about what you're doing and what you've already done? What's working for you?
Why do I need to follow what you say? It's always the same. I'm looking at it from the point of view of an instructor or a coach or an advisor. I'm looking at you and I'm saying, here's how I would do it if I were you in your shoes today, right? So you guys know, I use the loud introvert thing, and it seems to work pretty well for me. You're like, that's not very vulnerable. Where's your shadow worth, bro? Well, okay, it's not. I'm going to just be honest with you. It's not. Because I didn't sit down and like, how am I going to manufacture and how am I going to do this? I just did what I did, and it's working. But then if you try to do it, because here's what inevitably happens, and some of you in this room might feel triggered as soon as I say this. They're like, Chris, you're a loud introvert. I'm a shy extrovert. And we're like, shut up. You don't just take what I do and just flip it around. And it happens. It happens every single freaking time. How long did that take you to come up with? 4 seconds.
We want to be you. Bro.
No.
We want to
shut up.